Hi there, and welcome to this video about using constants in your ELC programs. Now, a constant is a particular type of variable, special type of variable that we use where we know that the value for the variable is not going to change. So we know its value in advance, and we know that throughout the program or throughout the app, that value is going to stay exactly the same. Now, we use that for things like, as an example, let's say we've got a program that calculates prices and things with VAT perhaps, and we know that VAT is set at a particular amount and is not going to change. Or let's say we have a program, let's say to do with, well, let's say it's a game, and you have a certain number of points that you score for, let's say, shooting a particular type of alien. So let's sort of see how that might work. Well, basically, we declare our constant outside of functions. So it's like a global variable, almost, okay, except that, as I say, it doesn't vary. But a constant, let's say I call this alien 1 score. Actually, alien 1 value, let's say. Okay, and now normally we're used to perhaps using a let statement with this, but because it's a constant, we have to give it its value straight away. Okay, so let's say I say that that type of alien scores 50 if we choose it. So constant alien value equals 50. Now that sets that value, and then we're not actually able to change it. But let's just check that it works a little bit like a variable first, and then we'll play around with seeing what it's what we're actually allowed or not allowed to do with it. So we can see it's acting pretty much just like a variable. Okay, and let's just go back. And because it's global, obviously this means that we'd be able to use it inside any of the functions in our app. Now let's have a look now and say, well, what are we allowed to do? Let's say if I said, well, let alien value equal 100. Okay, so it says, right, well, I found a problem near line 6. Okay, expected variable name in let statement. So what this is telling us is that in this statement here is expecting a variable name, and it's realizing that we realize now that this isn't a variable at all, it's a constant. So even though it might look a little bit like a variable and act a little bit like a variable when we can use it and substitute the value for the name, we know that it's not a variable because we can't use it in a let statement. So we can certainly see that we're not allowed to change the value of it. But what happens if we said, well, can we declare that constant in here perhaps instead? Okay, so found a problem near line 6. You can't declare a new constant within a function. Use constant to define a constant outside the function. Okay, so basically then we're sort of starting to realize the boundaries of what we are and what we're not allowed to do with constants. Okay, so we have to declare them as global, i.e. outside of functions. We use the constant keyword. We have to set a value for them here. Let's just see what happens if I don't do that. So if I were to do like that, sorry. Okay, so expected and equals in a constant statement. So when we do use a constant statement, we use the constant keyword. We're expecting, or it is expecting, that we have the equals inside of that statement, otherwise that won't work. Okay, so it throws an error if we don't actually assign a value immediately to that constant. So that's constants. Basically, to summarize, it is a bit like a variable, but one where the value doesn't change or can't change. They are global, and we can't declare them inside of functions. They have to be declared outside of a function, and we must give them a value immediately as we declare them.